And hello and welcome, good people of the internet. This is Tommy Kelly, and this is the Tommy Kelly podcast. I would like to welcome you all here, and thank you very much for having a listen and for, just being cool generally, and all the good things you do to the world, all the nice things you've done for your friends, all the courageous things you've done in your life, all the bad things you've done in your life that you apologise for, all the bad things that you never apologised for and got away with. Good for you, good for you. So welcome to this podcast. If this is your first time here, a special welcome to you. I hope you enjoy your stay. And if you do enjoy your stay, or if you are enjoying your many stays, as this is not your first podcast, please like it, share it, spread the good news, spread the gospel of Tommy Kelly podcast to everyone that you know. And it's not who you know, of course, it's who you annoy. So annoy as many people as you can about this podcast. Anyway, apart from all that, in this podcast, I want to talk about my kind of experiences with meditation over the years, my on-off, hot and cold relationship with meditation that I've had. So without further ado, let's get into that. So the place to start, as with all good stories, as we've said many times, is at the beginning. And I've talked to you before about my aunt, who was very influential on my spiritual life when I was a young teenager. And it was probably through her that I first came across meditation, or the idea of meditation. I'm not sure if it was something that would have been in common parlance, or, I don't think my parents would have talked about it, or wouldn't have been something that would have been well known when I was a kid. It wouldn't have been the way it is now, that everyone and their donkey is into meditation, and it's, it's the whole corporate thing, whatever. I don't think it was a word I would have known maybe until my aunt. Maybe I did, but that's my recollection now. So, as I said before, but if this is your first time, I haven't said it to you before, my aunt was big into theosophy, and she didn't do meditation every day, because most people don't. But what she did this kind of exercise, which is before you go to bed. The last thing you do before you go to bed is you replay your day from getting into bed backwards to the morning. And she explained it to me. It's like to clear your mind, so that you will dream better, or you'll have a better interactions with whatever it is that you interact with when you go to sleep. That's how she said it to me. It's like clearing your mind, but it was like a meditation thing. Recently, I've seen, or I heard, or I watched Conor Habib's one of his lectures, and he talks about the same thing. So I'm pretty sure this has come from a theosophy point of view, because he'd be big into Rudolf Steiner, who was a theosophist for a while. So it must be that kind of. So it's definitely coming from theosophy, and he says that by doing it, that he recommends doing it as well. He has another thing where he talks about focusing on an object for 5 minutes every day as well. So that's neither here nor there. So to Conor Habib, it's not my aunt, so let's get back to my aunt. So anyway, she recommended this, and I did it for a while, and I never really got anything from it or whatever. And when I heard Conor Habib talk about it, I tried it again, and there's definitely a discipline element to it, of making sure that you do it every day, every night before you go to bed. And it becomes annoying because you just want to, drift off or go to sleep, or you want to think about things or other things or whatever. So there's a discipline element to it that I get, but that's all I ever got from that. I didn't get any kind of insight, or my dreams didn't change. And maybe I didn't do it too long. I only did it for a couple of months. The other kind of thing, meditation and stuff, that my aunt would have been into was, like, she used to give us all these tapes of visualization, and you had people like Shakti Gawain, who, if you were into New Age, was pretty big into visualizing thing, and it'd be like guided meditations of literally, you're within these energy bubbles, or you're protected, or you're trying to put your wishes into bubbles and all that. And it's all kind of tired stuff now, but of course I didn't know it at the time. And there was another one by Louise Hay, and stuff like that. So there's a lot of New Age stuff kind of getting into meditation as well. But also from my aunt, which is her biggest gift to me, is she introduced me to Stuart Wilde. Not physically, but in the literary sense and audio sense, in that she gave me tapes and books. And Stuart Wilde's meditation thing was super exciting, and it was like exactly the type of stuff you want, real practical, kind of super spiritual, just the type of things you want to do. He like talked about meditating and then getting into such a trance, whatever, that with his eyes open, that he started seeing the near-death tubes that people go down, and he started traveling down these near-death tubes and into other worlds, and then into like the morph worlds and the mirror worlds and all these kind of things. And I was like, yeah, sign me up. That's what I want, and I'll have some of that. And his way of doing it, initially anyway, was to listen to a metronome while he meditated, which is a theta metronome, which is really fast. Beep, 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 beep. And it's just ridiculously annoying. But you get used to it after a while. And that did definitely get me into kind of a trance thing. Now, I never got anywhere close to near-death experience, tunnels, or any kind of anything significant in those kind of ways. But it did kind of, once you got past a supreme annoyance of the actual metronome, it did kind of get you into a slight altered state. Not in, like you wouldn't get excited about it, or literally you wouldn't write home about it or anything like that. You maybe years later, 20 years later, talk about it in a podcast, but that's about the height of it. So later on, of course, Stuart got into the whole the morph, and he had things ascending down onto him and visualization and all this stuff. But initially it was kind of just your basic meditation. You let it all go, and then eventually you start seeing things in front of your eyes, like shapes, and you let them go, and then your soul or your spirit, whatever, tries to contract you to symbols and stuff like that, and then the final one is you start seeing these tunnels, whatever. So that was interesting. I was well into that, and I did that for a while, not consistently, because I was a teenager and I didn't really do anything consistently at that point, other than maybe complain, overeat, maybe a bit of time, not exercise. They were all fairly consistent when I was a teenager. So the next kind of meditation thing I was exposed to, in religion class, probably not the best way to put it, but every Friday, I think it was Friday, we had, the first thing on Friday morning is we had a religion class, and the teacher, who was a priest, Father Monaghan, would do a meditation with us. And basically what would happen is everyone would come in on Friday, lie down on the floor and go to sleep. It was great. We all loved it. It was really, really good. And he was delighted because he goes, it just goes to show how stressed we all are, because as soon as we just lie down and relax, we fall asleep, which is true. It's also, we were just all awake and none of us wanted to be at school. Well, maybe some people do like school. So that was, kind of where my meditation was at. There was kind of the new agey stuff, the kind of theosophy, kind of almost academic-y, write down stuff, type of thing. Stuart Wilde adventuring stuff, almost journeying to a point. And then, you're just your standard lie on the ground, fall asleep meditation. So that was all the kind of meditation I did until I went to college. And in my kind of mid-20s, about 26, maybe it was 25, 26, 27, one of those ages, 26, I will guess, because it's in the middle. I went to college to do holistic health studies, and so that was like doing things like aromatherapy, reflexology, Reiki, Indian head massage. We did a bit of color therapy, we did kinesiology, we did all these kind of things. And it was part of the Reiki thing was that there was meditation. We had a big 5-hour class on a Wednesday of Reiki, and part of it was what we did meditation, and it would be guided meditation. And the Reiki teacher was big into shamanic stuff, but in the new agey type shamanic, Alberto Filaldo type shamanic things. So there was plenty of sage being burnt and rattles being rattled, and those kind of meditations where, you walk into this garden and there is a wall, and then you find out later that wall represents, I don't know, your childhood or something. And then you go in and there's a garden, and this garden is your creativity and all this kind of stuff but it was fine, it was okay. Again, it was part of this Reiki thing. It was funny though, the Reiki class, out of all the classes, well, not all of them, there was a couple of teachers in second year, one in particular who was just like a nasty, nasty, nasty piece of work. And I lasted like a class and a half with her before I just never went back. But anyway, the Reiki one was, out of all of them, was the one that most felt like school. You would think that, this would be light love and all this, but she was quite aggressive in many ways. And she would make the points of, this is tangent, but this is what I do. Should make this point of that. Oh, if you're doing Reiki and you start laughing or whatever, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. And then people will be doing Reiki and they'd start laughing, and she throw them out of the class. And she was in anger and stuff like that. Anyway, besides the point. Return from that tangent. So that was the kind of meditation that we were that I did there. There was a guy. There was 30 in the class. 30. No, there was 20. 25 in the class, and there was all women, and there was just two guys, me and another guy called Bobby. And he had an interesting experience when he did meditation. He meditated kind of in the lotus posture, but the Burmese one, it's Burmese where you don't actually do the half lotus or the full lotus, you just cross your legs, easy style. And but he would start rocking or swaying round or whatever. I think it was like in a semicircle, or maybe it was backwards and forwards. And the Reiki teacher was having none of that at all. She was going, that was annoying or whatever. But it turns out that's just a thing that some people do, and there's a whole Buddhist sect that's part of what they do. So maybe it was connected to that. He didn't know what it was. But again, when I did it, I used to lie on my back, and if I lie on my back, I snore. If I fall asleep, so I may have snored in that class once or twice. So that didn't encourage me to do any of meditation on my own, really. I don't think I was doing anything. I was there was a Wiccan in the class as well. And so I kind of got a bit into Wicca for a while, just through horror or whatever. And there's no real meditation in Wicca, so it wasn't that kind of a thing. Anyway, then my mum started going out with a guy who was huge into meditation, and he'd been meditating since he was 20, and he was now, I want to say, when they met, probably late 50s, maybe early 60s, could be older, I don't know. And he'd meditated twice a day for 40 minutes, twice a day, since he was forever. And he had a mantra. It's the Maharabha, or whatever way that's pronounced, Maharabhata. And he did it every day, and he would go off for 10-day retreats and, or 10 to 2 weeks silence, or do these things. And he had a couple of interesting experiences of meditating and in a church, and then seeing all the priests and monks coming in or whatever, and all gathering around him, and then realizing that, his eyes were closed, and of course this couldn't be happening. And a couple of other things like that, which was, quite interesting. So that kind of piqued my interest a bit more in meditation. My mum got really into this as well at that point, and she started doing it twice a day for 40 minutes. Just sitting in a chair, repeating the mantra. She stopped a few years after that, just because it's that thing of, you don't do it one day, and if you do it the next day, you can kind of get back into it. But if you miss 2 or 3 days, you have to start that habit all again. I think that's kind of what happened though. But she found good benefit for it at the time, and was really exposing the virtues of the whole thing. And, was in generally better mood or whatever, or seemed so or whatever, seemed to be. Again, I tried it a couple of times then at that point, and I just found it boring. I was probably expecting too much from it, or didn't realize that whole thing about meditation, that it's not that you have to sit there with a clear mind. It's that as soon as you realize you don't have a clear mind, you start again. It's not, people go, oh, I can't stop my mind. No one can stop the mind. The whole point of meditation is you just realize that you can't stop your mind, rather than you're sitting there in bliss or whatever. Unless you're one of these enlightened beings. Next, kind of my big kind of push into meditation came when I started getting into Brad Warner, who wrote the book called Hardcore Zen and Sit Down, Shut Up. Let me look at my bookshelf. Zen dipped in chocolate, wrapped in karma. There is no God, and he's always there. That guy, and he's on Facebook, and he has a YouTube channel and all that thing. And he's big into Zen, obviously, being hardcore Zen. And he's preaches the whole thing of Zazen, which is basically it's a proper posture, which is the lotus position, full lotus position, hands in the lap, eyes open meditation, and you just try not to think of anything. And I tried that, and I did that for a good while, and I tell you, I fucking hated it. It really, really grated me. Really, as a certain cartoon character say, it really grinded my gears. And I got it up to the point where I could do 12 minutes of Zazen, and that doesn't sound like achievement. That was an achievement for me, and it literally would put me in the foulest of form. I could be in great form, and I'd go do Zazen, and I'd just be angry and hated it. Or whatever. So obviously I had issues there, or things I had to work with, but I did that for a couple of months just sitting in the thing, hating it, not getting anything from it, or whatever, to the point where I just couldn't stand it anymore. I just, as much as I like Brad Warner, I love his books and love his outlook to a point. The Zazen thing, just not for me at all. The next kind of thing that after that, why I went looking for more meditation kind of ideas or stuff like that, or got, not really. I wasn't even going to look. It's Alan Chapman and Duncan Barford is who I'm talking about. I wasn't really going looking for meditation. I was going looking for magic and chaos magic, but found meditation through them. There are 3 books that they have. Again, looking at my shelf. The Blood and the Saints, The Urn, A Desert of Roses. Is that right? Yes. All about a year in the life, basically, of them trying to become enlightened. And, if we to take a word for them becoming enlightened. And proper, if as Brad Warner was hardcore Zen, this is hardcore meditation without the pun, really going for it, really following it and getting great insights. And if you ever want to get into meditation, read those books. They're really, really, motivating and whatever. And they talk about a guy called Daniel Ingram who wrote a book, the core principle, or practicing the core, mastering the core principles or the core teachings of the Buddha. Mastering the core teachings of the Buddha. I'm pretty sure it's something similar to that. But if you look up Daniel Ingram, his website is integrateddaniel.com, I want to say. But he has a great book, that Mastering the Core Teachings of the Buddha, which kind of roadmaps meditation from start to finish. What kind, where you fall on the scale of, from having never meditated to full, you're an arhat, you're an enlightened being, and all the signs and paths along the way, and all, the difference between noting meditation and mindfulness meditation and what it does, and all of these things. Great book, intent, and fairly hot. He's hot-headed in a lot of it, a bit angry in places and stuff like that, just about how Buddhism has, and meditation has been changed in the West and all that. Definitely worth checking out the book. It's free on his website as a PDF, or it's like $40 or something in Book Depository. So that's worth checking it. That I really got into meditation at that point and really took a serious go at it, and was probably, I did it, barring say 1 or 2 days, definitely did it for 2 years. And in those 2 years, my main issue, and always is my issue, is my posture, where I'm just always constantly totally aware of it, that it becomes more like a yoga position that I'm doing than a meditation. That all I'm thinking about is my posture. All I'm thinking about is how long, it feels like an endurance test of how much discomfort I can put up with. How it's like also like some sort of, I felt like I was torturing it to the point of that people say, like, what do you get out of meditation? I say, I get a sore back out of meditation, because that is literally all I got. And I tried lying down, and that was kind of okay, till eventually I started, falling asleep doing that. I didn't for a while, and then I did. But I tried all the different postures. I've got an expensive meditation cushion and all of these things, and it's just constantly always aware of my posture. Even sitting in a chair, like that thing where you're meant to sit up straight and all that, it's just something I've totally over thought about and overthink, so much so that my meditation was all about posture. That I never, in a sense, for any sort of extended period, got away, into any of these kind of bliss states or any of these kind of insightful states that people talk about. Headspace, which is like super popular now, was probably the thing that made my meditation, like it's the brightest part of my meditation practice that I've done. And I started right from the very beginning, where he just starts from literally counting your breaths, and you can go, like there's loads of modules and you go your own way with all of it. But it's so well taught and brings you through all the different stages, all the different types of meditation, all the different things. And I have his books and I've all that kind of stuff. Just check it out. I can't recommend Headspace enough, particularly for people who've never meditated before and want to get in on it. The first 10 days are free, and I think you can do them over and over again. And then, there's a monthly fee if you want to go that way as well. I bought it for the year. It's like €50 or £50 or something. Totally worth it. I did that for a while. I had a big long streak of that until the point that I went on. Did I go on holidays and it didn't sync up or something? And then that was it. I just I fell aboard, and I kind of been very sporadically meditating since. I also did Gupta Vinya, or Vinya Gupta, the cutting machinery. I did that for a while, and that's very intense. Like that's like a long, like hours of meditating every day. Like it was too much for me. It's like took it far too seriously. Kind of on the fringe of meditation, I always had, not that I did an awful lot of, but I always had good kind of experiences with journeying, or I was going to say the astral travel stuff, but I never really got the astral travel stuff because I was always expecting to actually physically come out of my body rather than doing the imagination thing. So the journeying thing, when I did it, was always very good because I have a fairly decent active imagination that let go, and a good visualization, an inner visualization and stuff. So it was probably something I should have gone into more, but didn't, because I felt, because so many people espoused meditation, and I do it myself because there is huge benefits to meditation on a mental and emotional level. But people, just do it. Oh, it's so good for your magic. It's so good for your meditation. Hasn't really done anything for my magic, to be honest. I don't think so, anyway. And if it does, I'm not aware of it, because when I changed so much and did so much to work on myself a lot, there's too many factors to know which was the thing. And when I stopped meditating, which I have done kind of recently, I haven't done an awful lot of meditation recently, it didn't seem to make a difference to any of that. Now, that could be because I've done all this meditation, or it could be that meditation isn't as big a factor in these things as people let on. And some people also have this thing where they go, oh, it's I don't need to meditate because I do plainly because I do drugs, when I do the LSD thing, or that's my meditation. And I also think that's a very separate thing. I don't think meditation is comparable to taking psilocybin and going on trips. That's probably closer to journeying, but even then I don't think they should be comparative. It's a different type of what's the word? A different type of activity. Perfect. Caffeine, giving up caffeine made an awful lot of difference to my mental health and mental state of mind, and my stress and my anxiety as well. And I've started drinking a bit more coffee now again, and introducing a bit more caffeine. And since I came back from Romania, because I had caffeine now. And while sometimes I can notice that I've drinking too much coffee and I'm a bit anxious, I'm aware that it's the caffeine rather than I think my life's falling apart. Again, the benefits I got from when I give it up seem to have stuck with me because I'm more aware. So when I look at meditation, go, oh, maybe I didn't get anything from it. It could be that that's easy to say, looking back, having already got the benefits from it. So it's like recently I learned how to use my a camera, or learn the different things about photography and all that, and it feels like I've always known those things because it's knowledge I have now. So it might be that because of meditation, I know how my brain works a bit better, and then now I've reframed the past because of that, thinking, oh, well, I always knew these things. So huge caveat there. But yeah, going back to the thing of that, it's the reason why I didn't do the journeying so much is because the meditation so espoused with people, so pushing for it as the main thing that you have to do it, that I felt guilty not doing it. And it felt like something I should do rather than I want to do. I certainly never wanted to do it. Like, meditation's hard to do. It's, it's the discipline of doing it every day. And then you hear some people go, oh, I can't, I love meditating. I just do it for hours. And go, what is wrong with you? How can you do it? Like, from my point of view, sitting there with a sore back for hours just didn't seem appealing whatsoever. So I'm not sure if it is all the big thing it's cracked up to be. It's certainly been on the go for a long while, and it's become more popular since Buddhism has become more westernized, especially American Buddhism is now a huge business or whatever, and it's become more corporate, this whole mindfulness. But it's interesting to see in one of his Q&As that Jordan Peterson kind of dismisses the whole thing. He says it's a fad, it's going to go away. So Jordan Peterson's right about an awful lot of things, but I just thought it was like, it's a good, I may or may not agree with him that it's a fad, but it's good to get an opinion from someone who knows what he's talking about on many things, that is opposed to just this blanket thing of meditation is great for you and all that. But my comeback in all this is that I still do think you should meditate, because some people get great value out of it. Just because I only ever got a sore back, as I say, doesn't mean that that will be your experience. But the other thing is that it does teach you an awful lot. It does teach you an awful lot about how your mind works, and it's more that time when you're cooking dinner and you're thinking away, and you sort of notice that your mind has gone away into a dark places, whatever. You can pull it back. So it's not necessarily on the cushion itself that you're going to see a lot of this benefit. It's on the idle Tuesday morning when you're having a row with your mother in your head for something that may or may not have happened 20 years ago, and that kind of thing. And you can see that your mind runs off, and it is very helpful for that. But I think mindfulness in general will get you there rather than having to sit there for 2 hours on a cushion or whatever. Just become more mindful. Maybe something like CBT, mindfulness CBT or something like that would be all you need, and it might suit you better to do that than sitting cross-legged on a cushion with a sore back. So the mindfulness and the noting, the Vipassana, all things I think of great benefit once you realize that it's only going to do certain, too much. I think there's emphasis on occult or in spiritual circles of, you meditate to become enlightened, or to, even to the Stuart Wilde thing of, to journey to, other worlds or whatever it is, the astral travel and all that. I think it's probably distraction, probably not very helpful. I also think the dryness of Zen and Zazen and all that, and where it's the total opposite, where you're not allowed to think about any of these things, or, you meditate just to sit in silence, just not to think, whatever. I think that's probably pendulum swing too far as well. With all these things, there should be a happy medium, some sort of middle path that I think some guy 2,500 years ago may have, suggested that we do. But don't feel you have to do meditation. Do meditation if you want. Now, that's not to say that if you do, that you go, I don't find it easy, so I'm not going to do it. Do it, it's not easy. Meditation not easy. It's worth pursuing. It's worth, like any discipline, whatever, it's worth keeping it up for a time. Don't do it once and go, it's not for me. Do it for a year and then see if it's not for you. Do it for 2 years and see if it's not for you. That, especially if you're into any sort of spiritual ideas or magic ideas or the occult or whatever you're into, I would suggest at least trying an extended period of meditation, and then then you can decide if you want or not. I currently have a very sporadic meditation practice, and I probably will go back to it at some point, but at the minute I'm getting what I need, what I would have got from the meditation from my running and from different things like that. So I'm okay for the minute, but it is something I will go back to. So, yeah. So that's it for another podcast, for another week, and I'm glad to get this out, I'll tell you. I did this to-do list on Monday, and or on Sunday to go, I'll get all this done on Monday, I'll really, go for it, whatever. And it's Thursday and I still haven't got the whole to-do list done, so I'm glad to get at least this part done. So if you want to hear more, then if you go to adventuresinwubu.com, all the podcasts are there. You can get it on Pocket Casts and iTunes, on all the places that podcasts are available. It should be available. If you want to know more about what I do and all that stuff, again, Adventures in Wubu, where all the blog posts and all that stuff there. You'll also find a bit about the 40 Servants, which is a divination and magic system I came up with. There is a daily vlog I'm doing at the minute. Today I posted day 35, which is about my day-to-day life and running, exercise, health, magic, personal development, all that kind of stuff. There is Patreon if you want to help me do these things, and you can find that at tommykelly.com, which is TOMMIE Kelly.com. There's a Twitter, which is at Tommy Kelly. There is a Facebook 40 Servants group. There is a there's an artist and photography page that I have on Facebook as well. If you look up my name, you'll find that. I'm just all over the place with all the internet things. There's an Instagram that I kind of use, that I don't use, whatever. So if you liked any of the stuff, please share it. Please give it a thumbs up. Please leave a comment. Please, tell people about it, whatever. And I will talk to you all next week. So good, people of the internet. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and be well.